welcome back. I'm going to save you from watching all of my poor knife skills, but suffice it to say that this time, my first time making baguettes in several years, I was not satisfied. Honestly, I think that barely looks like a baguette. It is way too pale, it is not bubbly enough on the inside, and I do not like it. It tasted good, but it did not look the part. So of course I had to make several more batches. A little bit of backstory as you watch me pre-shape this second batch of baguettes, is I used to do this more often. I think my first year of farmers markets, I brought baguettes to a few of them, but there were definitely things that I had forgotten, like how high the heat needed to be, especially for this first batch. That's why they look so pale and so dingy. But there were also lots of things I remembered, like the rough idea of how to do the pre-shape and then shape. The pre-shape for these, I'm just measuring them out into 400 gram segments and then rolling that using the table to get it into a tight ball. The basic process that I use for making baguettes is I mix the dough with the flour water starter. Then about half an hour to an hour later, I add the salt. I let it soak in with some water spritzed on top for about 15 minutes or so, and then mix it in. And that constitutes kind of the first stretch and fold, depends how you want to count it. But that begins the next few hours of stretch and folds, which I don't do with my normal loaf. I prefer a tighter crumb for my regular sourdough loaf. That way the butter doesn't seep through and there are no giant gaps. But for baguettes, it's pretty classic that they do have the big holes, the big bubbles, and the bigger gaps. After the pre-shape, I rest the dough on the countertop for about half an hour, and then they are ready for the final shape. And this is the method for which I was missing a step last time in my first batch. Basically, I do a letter fold after stretching it, and then a final fold with a crease to really tighten things up. And you're going to see me do this twice, so don't miss it. But basically this makes sure there's a taut surface on the top of the baguette, which is good for oven spring and getting a nice crusty rise through the slits that I'll later cut in the dough. For this batch, I made the mistake of over-flouring my surface, which you will see in the final baked product. When I think about how much of this I did from memory and how much I did without reference, and how not unsuccessful the first batch was, really, I realized that I really tend not to give myself enough credit for what I know and for the experience that I have. I am self-taught completely. Nobody showed me how to do any of this. I'm sure I didn't even watch how-to videos for the first several years that I was baking bread. And yet, I have learned enough and read enough and garnered enough experience and knowledge in my own ways that when I saw that first batch come out of the oven, I knew what was wrong. I knew what it needed and what I could do to fix it. And you know what? It worked. I think sometimes I and many others of us who tend to doubt ourselves, I forget that I'm actually a decent baker at the end of the day. And that the reason I've made this my job and the reason I've been able to make this my job is because I don't suck at it. Sometimes I underbake a thing and cry about it and feel like I must be the worst baker in the world. I'm not. Mistakes are a part of learning. I feel like in a lot of ways this video is a testament to the knowledge that I've built over time. Like, there is no way that 4 years ago I could have just known what to do and how to improve the product this quickly. And yet I did. That's not on 3 weeks of experimentation. That's on 4 years of working with dough and of baking and of experimenting and of learning how things work. It's kind of like that story of the artist who's like, yeah, I can make this in 10 minutes. I can make this detailed sketch in 10 minutes, but what you're really paying me for is not that 10 minutes. It's the years of experience that have gone into making this skill happen in only 10 minutes. And I feel like I'm finally starting to see the payoff of that as a baker. Like, I know my stuff. And it's hard to believe and it's hard to vocalize. But I know what I'm doing, and I'm really proud of what I do. Definitely better. Crumb. Yeah, that's definitely better. Oh, it smells so good. It's not the same as yeah, that's definitely better. All right. Cheers. Oh yeah, that's good. This is my lunch. Hi, welcome to the garage. Wow, incredible lighting going on here. I feel like the last step in making sure that my baguette process is gonna work, is gonna be consistent, and is gonna be the most efficient it can be, is making a transfer peel. So in videos of people doing baguettes, you'll see them kind of take the cloth and then flip the baguette onto a wooden board that then they use to flip it onto the actual baking surface, or whatever is being used to transfer it to the baking surface. So maybe that's like a cloth thing that they put it in the oven, or whatever kind of actual peel that they're working with. So the last batch, I got it so that there's not too much flour on the surface. And I did that by not flouring the parchment paper. So I don't have, it's called a couche. I think that's how you say it. But I don't have a cloth couche for baguettes, so I've been using parchment paper instead. Eventually I will invest in one of a cloth, but you know, it's expensive. So, but my plan for my next market is to do a dozen baguettes. So I need a way to efficiently and quickly get it from the pan with the parchment paper on it to the silicone baking mat so that I can then transfer it into my oven, which is currently covered because I'm not baking today. This is some spare plywood from when I made my peels for my oven. Those are 18 by 18. This has plenty left on it, and so I think it's warm enough outside for me to take this out with the saw, but I'm gonna basically measure it, and it's going to be a big rectangle, and it's going to work better than what I was doing with my arm, with trying to flip it onto my arm and keep it straight, because that was pretty hard and pretty frustrating. So hopefully I don't have to do that again. Let's work on this. I actually found a much smaller piece, and I just almost stabbed myself with it. Fun. Okay. So I'm just leaving that in the sun to fully dry and just do its thing for a little bit. But I mean, yeah, now I have a specialized peel for my baguettes. That's awesome. And now for the last part of any new product, the pricing. So for pricing new products and really repricing anything, I've been using the Ultimate Microbakery spreadsheet by Lily's Loaf. Lily is amazing. You can find a lot of spreadsheets and pricing makers and pricing trackers on the internet. It's nice to have one that is specifically made for sourdough bakeries. So that's why I used this. I used the product costing calculator, and I'm not gonna like show it here because I'm not gonna blow her product. Like, if you want it, I wholeheartedly recommend the Ultimate Microbakery spreadsheet, and you should go get it from her and support her. But basically I put in all my ingredients, what they cost, the amounts in which I use them in this recipe, and then it comes out with a price per batch, and then I can divide that by how many products I have per batch, which is 6 because I did this in a half dozen quantity. And then it gives me the suggested price. So, not counting any sprinkling flour, because unfortunately I just cannot calculate that. The cost of ingredients to make 6 baguettes is about $3.50. that accounts for the ingredients and kind of scales it up a bit, but it does not account for my time, for the electricity it takes to run my oven, which it's looking like I'm only going to be able to do these in my Rofco and not in my home oven, because the temperature just doesn't get up high enough, consistently enough in my home oven, which is fine with me. I think these are better stone baked anyway. But to ensure the quality of the product, it requires an hour and a half of preheating. So accounting for that, and for, I mean, my time that it takes to shape the baguettes, the cost of my time to do stretch and folds, which I don't do in my normal bread, I decided it might be like prudent in terms of what I can pay myself to do $4 per baguette. And this is, I mean, it's a really good quality product, and it actually ends up scaling accurately with the rest of my products. My small size focaccia, which is 500 grams before baking, $5. My loaves, which are about 900 grams before baking, $9. These baguettes are about 400 grams before baking. $4 makes sense to me. So there is an element of kind of judging it just roughly. And like if I were to sell these wholesale, I think I would go with like $2.50 per baguette. But since I am not doing large quantities at this point, and not selling wholesale because it's not legally allowed in my state for being in a home kitchen, I think $4 for a genuine, long fermented French style sourdough baguette is completely fair. I mean, I find in my area, like, I'm hesitant to raise prices, so I don't anticipate raising the price of anything for a good long while. Like, it took me 3 years after the cost of flour nearly doubled to raise the cost of my loaf any. That was just this year, and even I felt bad about it, but people weren't hesitant to pay $9 for a loaf of bread versus $8. And I know there are people out there which they have their own costing methods and their own supplies, and like they know their own stuff and what they need, charging $12 to $14 for a plain loaf of sourdough bread. It's fine. That's their prerogative, as is mine to charge $4 for a baguette. I feel like I'm kind of trying to defend myself in advance, but this is what my labor is worth. And it's not going to be for everybody, and it can't be for everybody, unfortunately. But I mean, I work hard, and I worked hard to learn this skill over the course of years, because it wasn't just this month that I've been learning how to make baguettes. This was relearning and really perfecting the kind of product that I want to bring to the market. And this was my chance to be unsatisfied with the product until it met my standards. I feel like I'm more critical of my product than a lot of people. Like my partner was telling me, yeah, I've seen baguettes in Paris that are shaped exactly like the ones that you are saying are crappy. So like, it's not a crappy product, even when I'm not completely satisfied with it, but taking the time to make it so that I'm more satisfied with it and that I am closer to completely satisfied with it has been definitely worth it. And unfortunately, I don't have any footage of my last batch after it came out of the oven, because I gave 3 of them to my partner and I sold the other 3 for $4 a piece. So, and those 3 of those were shaped, I think, really well, and were really up to my standard of the product that I want to bring. Shaping baguettes consistently is really hard, just because it's so easy for them to become lumpy and weird. And I feel like by consistently making them for a couple of weeks now, I've gotten better at the shaping. I've refreshed my memory on what needs to go where and learned more about what texture I can expect and what texture works best for this. I'll be bringing these baguettes to holiday markets. Not sure yet if I will launch them on my website as an available product for purchase, because to me the smallest batch that I can make is 6, and it's not really worth it to me if somebody buys 1 baguette and then I have to make an entire batch of 6, because stretch and folds in small quantities, not gonna work. I don't know, maybe I'll only offer these at pop-ups, maybe they'll come to my site in the future when I start getting more consistent orders and I can expect that people will order more than 1. I don't know, but for now I'm prepared for that, and I'm prepared to bring these to market, and yeah, that's part of, I guess, a peek into the R&D process for my bakery. Let me know if you'd be interested in more recipe testing videos and kind of the journey of discovery that it entails. I'm going to be trying to add more products to my menu because I feel like I've consistently brought exactly 2 products to farmers markets, and I want to bring more, and I want to just have more offerings. If you want to see more of me, you can subscribe if you want to. That's all I'll say on that because I'm still embarrassed to say it. And I will see you in 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, I'm doing it, okay? I will see you in the next one. All right, bye.